Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rock'em Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is Before the Box Score. Yes, you pulled us away from college football 25. No, we're not happy about it. But if there's something that we had to do that's not college football 25, I suppose talking about Missouri football with you fine folks live here on Rock'em Plus tonight is worth it. Nathan Hurst, how's your dynasty?
It could be better. It's a slow build. It's a slow build. First, you got to lose big. Then you got to lose by a little. Then you got to win by a little, and then you can win by a big. Right now, we're somewhere between lose big and lose little. But it's a slow burn.
Okay, very good. So welcome to Missouri football. We got things to talk about. This is our last off-season show. Fall camp starts Tuesday. Is that right?
Monday is the first day.
Boy. Starting in July, believe it or not. So this is last week was the last week that Nathan Hurst and I would not be podcasting. From here until the end of the year, you get Hurst and I in your ears every week, sometimes twice a week. For the rest of the year, it is July 24th. My God, what have we signed up for?
You're going to get real tired of my voice, that's for sure.
Boy, I'm already tired of it. We haven't even started yet. So we are here to talk about Mizzou football. We're going to close out kind of the offseason stuff. We're going to talk about a commitment that we got. We're going to talk about the preseason polls, whatever that's worth from media days. We'll dive into a little bit of existential quandary, and then we'll touch on the thing that everybody's doing right now, which is playing the video game, as we alluded to before. But before we get to all that, let's get to the business at hand. Let's get to the recruiting stuff because, we had a big recruiting show the past 2 weeks, or the past 2 times, I should say. And at the conclusion of last time's show, we talked about a potential recruit coming out of East St. Louis, maybe it's going. Yeah, he absolutely gave his solid verbal to Mizzou. His name is Charles Bose. I don't know, however you want to pronounce it, and whether it's the fish or the instrument, I don't particularly care. I think it's funnier if it's bass, especially since he had the guitar in his hand when he committed instead of a fish. But, also Eli Drinkwitz went fishing a couple weeks ago, so it fits. However you want to do it, doesn't matter. The dude plays football really well. He's a defensive back. He's out of East St. Louis, Illinois, that old recruiting stomping grounds for the Missouri Tigers. He is a blue chipper. This is a good thing. Nathan Hurst, how do you feel about the commitment?
It's great. I mean, he's just one more in a long string of wins that the coaching staff has had this summer. Another consensus 4-star. I don't know if he's consensus, but he's certainly a composite 4-star in the 247 composite rankings. Really good player, athletic, had a good offer list. Maybe not quite the same as a few of the other guys we've landed lately, but anytime you can take a recruit away from Arkansas, away from Illinois, you'd love to see it. So. Happy to deprive them of a talented player. Happy to take one for ourselves. Exciting. Always great to keep that East St. Louis high school pipeline up and alive. We've had a really good relationship with that school in the last decade or so. Got some really talented players out of there, and they're going to continue to produce them. So keeping that pipeline where we can get 1 or 2 guys a year out of there, we'll be doing pretty good.
Yeah. He's a top 100 player. I know that varies by recruiting service that you subscribe to. I know the Rivals has him as the 97th best player in the country currently, and obviously all that is subject to change as time goes on, as the senior years get played out. But currently he is the 9th best safety in the country and the 5th best product from the state of Illinois. So sitting at the 6'2", 185, he is kind of a defensive back through and through. When he plays for the Flyers at East St. Louis, he lines up both at corner and at safety, or at least he did during his junior year. If you watch him at corner, that's a lot of his tape. He's a pretty good corner. He has good hip rotation. He has really good closing speed. He can, backpedaling is not really a thing anymore. But he is very physical with his receiver. He can break up the ball. There's plenty of times where he tracks the ball and catches it over his head or swats it away after he kind of lost visual of his receiver. So, I mean, again, these are highlights. You're going to see the good stuff. The good stuff is good. I will say he is projected as a safety at the next level, and I do think that's where his skill set is going to be. Obviously, there is value in taking somebody who's really good at one thing and teaching them another thing to make them a well-rounded player. Personally, I want my college football team to focus on what do you do well? Let's have you do the thing that you do well. Make it simple, keep it simple, deploy the people at their best. And really, he is a hard-hitting defensive back. He is a safety kind of through and through. Like I said, very physical as a corner, but the way that he crashes the line and likes to get hits, the way that he's able to rush up there and take an absorb a block and still work through it and chase his man down. That's not stuff you get from your average defensive back. So if you could put him at corner, I do think safety is his best. And Hurst, I mean, you look at these safeties, the ones that we've been bringing in this recruiting class in particular, you go down the list. Obviously, we got Charles Bass now, excuse me, but even Dylan Williams out of Alabama, like that is a dude who likes to hit. And we know that a Blake Baker 4.25 involves safeties hitting dudes. So I'm glad to see that continue. But where do you see? Do you think he's going to be kind of like that star, the Dalen Carnell? Do you think he's going to be more of a Jalen Carlisle who can hang with receivers and also knock the snot out of them? Where do you like him right now?
I agree that he's probably slots in more as a safety than a cornerback. I see him more as a free safety, someone that's going to do more pass coverage, just because he has those skills. A player who's playing in the star position maybe has to cover a tight end, but or back out of the backfield, but you're not going to really ask them to do a whole lot of downfield, high leverage pass defense or pass coverage rather, where if he misses his assignment or it's going to be a touchdown. I think a guy like Charles Bass has the athleticism to stick with receivers deep down the field. He's great at adjusting to the ball. Even if the ball's over his head, he can turn around. He's athletic enough to make those kind of free safety type interceptions where kind of come out of nowhere and snag one that you didn't expect him to necessarily get to. So I could see him as a heir apparent to Charleston there at free safety. They can play him around. He's definitely has the ability, I think, to move around a defense, which is a great option to have. Maybe you God forbid, get a little thin at cornerback and you need to have someone slot in there. He could do that. Is that going to be his best position? Probably not. But he's got that versatility. A few of the guys, other safeties that we know that we're bringing in, I think are more definitely bigger, hard. They all can hit hard. All the defensive backs in this class are really good tacklers. That's a theme that you kind of see throughout the whole class, whether they're going to play cornerback or play safety. They all can hit. They can all tackle. But I mean, I think Bass is probably one of the better pass coverers in the class, at least what I saw on tape. So yeah, put him deep, or and then in a kind of cover zero, he can still line up against a receiver and hold his own well enough.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, he's got plenty of time to figure it out. There's really no rush to play him at safety. Maybe he gets a look next year. But there's a couple guys that would be in front of him there. Obviously, corner. Who knows where that's going to shake out? But he steps into a situation where if he's good enough, he can see the field, and if he's not, he's got time to learn. So it's always great to get top 100 prospects. It's always great to keep that East St. Louis pipeline churning, and it's great to get yet another blue chip 4-star into the mix for the Missouri Tigers, which are the recruiting class is what? It was 11th, I think, for a little bit. Is that still?
Yeah, we had up to 11th in rivals, I believe. I think it's dropped a little bit in the last week or so as other programs have added additional commitments, and we haven't gotten any commitments since then. So I think we're down to around 13, 14-ish, in the different services. Pick your service. That's about the range,
Yeah.
which is great. I think we might be down to 15th in one of them, but still great spot. Probably 3-ish spots, kind of slots. I would imagine that they will look to fill with high school recruits to close out the class. Now, what positions those may be, I don't really know, but they're kind of in with kind of have the advantage of being very picky about who they want to close out the class with,
Sure.
because they've had a lot of these really big wins, bringing in is that 8 4-stars now, 7 or 8 4-stars at this point, which is outstanding. They can really take their time and focus on a few top end guys, knowing that they could always circle back around to someone. Maybe a 3-star later on in the process if they need to, but they can really devote a lot of their energy into the top end guys, your Jose Epinezas, your Michael Fasusis that are closing in on making commitments. And Babalola, another 5-star offensive lineman that we're in the top 5 for. So the staff can really hyper focus, I think, these next week or two on those guys, not have to spread themselves too thin, try to bring in because they've got 17 now. That's a good spot to be in July.
Yeah. And I mean, right now, Missouri is ranked 14th in the 247 composite, but there's only 3 teams ahead of them that have fewer commitments. Michigan has 16, they're 12th. Clemson has 14 commits, they're 11th, and then Oregon has 16 commits and they're 5th. So I don't know how many more Mizzou is interested in taking or needs to take. Again, they do such a good job at identifying talent out of the transfer portal that you got to keep actually, probably a little bit more scholarships available just for that kind of instance, instead of stocking up on a high school player who at best is going to be, playing for you in a year, maybe 2 down the line, let alone somebody who could do it right now. So I don't know. I mean, you could talk yourself into a lot of different commitments, and obviously there's guys out there who are good enough that if they say yes, staff was sure, fine. But yeah, to your point, being picky, it's a good place to be. And I don't think they're going to get too many more outside of what they got. And boy, if we're going to be disappointed with the top 15 class, I know I'm not. That would be, was it 12th, I think, in 2022, the 12th best class. That's the best ever. So, that's kind of what you're flirting with right now. But even then, it's a great collection of talent right now that we probably won't see for a little bit, but it's nice to have.
Great spot to be.
Yeah. Just keep stacking those classes, baby. That's all we ask from you. Okay, so that is the recruiting news. And then, of course, last week was SEC Media Days. Something that's probably a little antiquated at this point. Media Days used to be like the one time where national writers got access to coaches and players. Could find out about depth charts and roster movement. That was the place that it happened, in the 90s before, we had the internet. And now you have 24/7 access to any and all information that you possibly want, including the players themselves. So that's really not something that is useful, but it's such a cornerstone of the season, such a representation of the beginning of the year that, of course, they're going to keep doing it. Plus, all the writers get to go on vacation in a hotel for a little bit, get away, comp some meals, some flights, and go hang out with your friends for a week. So it's going to keep going. But the point is, it's fun. It's meant to be fun. And along those lines, they decided to do preseason polls at the SEC Media Days, which, as consumers of media, man, just enjoy the ride. Just be glad it's here. I'm not going to dance around it. I think Missouri was selected to picked 6th in the SEC. Is they're finished there? What the people who are at SEC Media Days think where Mizzou's going to finish. Georgia was picked 1st, Texas 2nd, Alabama 3rd, Ole Miss 4th, LSU 5th, Missouri 6th. So when you put it in those standards, boy, that sounds pretty good. And if you're thinking 4 SEC teams make it into the playoff, if the writers think that you're going to be 6th or floating around there, that's not too bad. Really, you could probably interchange 2 through, really 3 through 6, maybe 3 through 7, just based on the day. So that's a pretty good place to be. That is respect. What I know a lot of people were getting upset about was that the lack of player representation on the preseason polls. I think only Luther Burden was named to a SEC Media Days preseason ballot. I know he was a first teamer, but that's it. So you think the team could be 6th best in the league, but you don't think any players are all that great. Nathan, I got my thoughts on this. I'm going to let you take first crack. What are your takeaways from this?
I think, first of all, the being picked 6th overall, that's fine. I can't really, scream at on the rooftops that this program should be picked before the season starts higher than LSU or higher than Alabama. Or, Ole Miss is the one where we're kind of at the same level. We're like, why are they 2 spots higher than we are? But okay, they killed it in the transfer portal. They got tons of talent this year. Sure, whatever. So, despite how excited we've been for the season, the potential playoff expectations, or at least hopes, 6 sounds low, but when you read as you were saying, when you read the names of the schools ahead of us, that's there's not a whole lot you can really argue there. That said, the one player on the entire, I think is it 3 teams or just 2 teams worth of players? It's 3 teams.
Yeah.
That is 60 plus players picked, and one of them is a Mizzou Tiger. If we finish in the top 6 in the SEC and there's only one player in the top 3 all SEC teams, then Drinkwitz is going to win his 2nd consecutive SEC Coach of the Year, because that's a remarkable coaching job to finish 6th in the SEC, especially the bolstered SEC, and only have one player that the media deems as any good, right? So I don't think that's going to be the case. Even if we finish lower than 6th, this team is still going to finish with more than one player in the top 3 teams of the all SEC. But that said, we've added 2 really good programs with a lot of talent on them. So that's more competition for these preseason spots. So, trying to be a little rational about it, reasonable about it. Okay, we added Texas and Oklahoma. There's not a whole lot of roster spots both of those teams have, that Mizzou has players that in the preseason you would necessarily rank over them. Maybe you would put a lot of them side by side, equal. But there's not a whole lot that are going to rank over those 2 schools, let alone Georgia, let alone Alabama, let alone a bolstered Ole Miss. So, that's kind of my reasonable, rational take. My fan take is this is awesome, actually, because the program's motto has been something to prove. And everything is still very much on the table for this program to prove, based on these ranks, certainly based on the all conference teams. And the coaching staff can take these. These are already stapled up or up on the bulletin board in the locker room, right there. Luther's name's probably circled, and everyone else's name, a big question mark. No one else is on here. We need to prove that we belong on this list. And that's going to be a calling card all season. It worked great for the program last year, and this is just going to re-energize that.
I wish so bad that every year the attendees at the SEC media days would pick Missouri last in the SEC. I want them to do that every year. And then I want them to keep every single player off of every single preseason all conference team list. Please do that, because I am not a world-class athlete, but I know them, and I know sometimes you can't even get them to brush their teeth unless you go up and say, I don't think you can do it. And they go, I'll show you. And then they brush their teeth and they floss on top of it, and then they flex. That's just how they work, okay? Look, college age athletes are silly people. They're silly little people who need disrespect constantly to get things done. So just eat it up. Disrespect us all you want. And I'm not even thinking it's disrespect. I think it's great. But I want you to create that so that we have literal bulletin board material. We have literal STP fuel, okay? That is what we need. That is what this team needs. That's what it thrives on. Eli Drinkwitz and his little shucks, blue collar, no one believes in us. Like, yeah. I don't care if you've accumulated like the greatest roster ever seen in Columbia, Missouri, with the most 4-stars and 5-stars we've ever seen. Guys who are like the most elite athlete from their city, maybe ever. No, we need that disrespect fuel. So go ahead and throw it on there. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I love it. I am never mad at anything that the SEC Media Day polls do. I think it's great. But just for reference, because to your point, adding Oklahoma and Texas makes it tough. Do you know who the 3rd team quarterback is? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't, but if I had to guess, we've got Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers would be 2 of the 3 on there. The 3rd would be Jalen Milroe, probably.
Jalen Milroe's number 3. That's right. Just to give you an idea, Dominic Lovett is a 3rd team wide receiver. Oscar Delp is a 3rd team tight end. Ernest Green, the standout offensive lineman, is a 3rd team offensive lineman. James Pierce, James Pierce, like the one awesome defensive player in the SEC. He plays for Tennessee, third team defensive end.
And he's a projected top 10 draft pick in the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah. Third team all SEC media days. Like, look, I'm not shaming anybody, but there's a solid chance that most of these dudes are like, I have no idea, man. And they just put a name down.
Yeah. They look at Georgia's depth chart. They look at
this guy.
Alabama's depth chart and scroll down. Yeah.
Yep.
I can promise you, though, the end version of this will have at least 2 Mizzou offensive linemen in this top 3 teams. There will be at least 2 of them on there.
And that's the one that counts.
Yep, that's the one that counts. And Marcus Bryant's going to be on there. Even if he's third team, he'll be there by the end of the year. And Armand Minbu will be there as well. If not a Caden Green as well.
I was going to say Caden Green disrespect, but yeah, there it is.
I mean, just mainly looking at the depth of really, really good guards in the SEC.
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama has 4 amazing guards and only 2 of them can play at one time. So there's a lot of depth there, but I think our tackles will be on there for sure. And who knows, maybe Connor Tollison will blow up in his third year as a starter and find his way on there too. But if I had to look at one position group that was going to get a guy or 2 on there, that would be the area. Theo Weiss, I'm a little surprised didn't get a little more recognition, like a third team spot. I could see him getting the nod there at the end of the season. I mean, that's the one that matters.
Nick Emenwari from South Carolina is a third team defensive back. That's ridiculous. Tonka Hemingway from South Carolina, third team defensive lineman. Like, yeah, who cares? Crank up the disrespect and then just ignore it because that's all it's for. That's all it's for. I don't want my team to be properly respected. Every time that happens, they stink. Okay? I don't need that. Not in my life. So anyway, that happened, and really we didn't hear a thing about it. I know Eli Drinkwitz talked. I saw a video of him talking. I heard people write down the words that he said. No feet in mouth, nothing that grabbed the headline. That's great. Brady Cook didn't say anything inflammatory. I think that's great. Luther Burden sounded like he was very good in front of the mic. That's great. I'm perfect with that. Didn't hear a thing about Christian Williams. I was really hoping I could hear a little bit more about him. Didn't learn squat. So, they did a good job, man.
Yeah. Keep it vanilla. I mean, you could tell Drinkwitz feels good about his team because he didn't say anything over the top. I think he kind of likes to create a little bit of buzz if he is, as a distraction perhaps away from things he doesn't want people to look at. But that was not the case this time. I did watch his speech and then a couple of the interviews he did, and it was it was very personable. He's still a really charismatic dude when he's talking up the Tigers, but he didn't have to throw any barbs at anybody this time, thankfully. No Jedi lightsabers or anything.
Was the STI that was at Media Days, right?
The STI,
speed, toughness, intellect.
Yes, that was yes.
Okay.
That was in his opening remarks. I guess if that counts, he wasn't intentionally trying to do anything. I think he realized his error as soon as it came out of his mouth. But I think that was more of a accidental mistake.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this before about Steve Spurrier, and I think Eli Drinkwitz frequently tries to emulate Steve Spurrier and what the old ball coach would do. And he's admitted to this now that he's retired, is that the worst that he felt about his team is the more he would talk. And what he would do is he try to create, it's like trying to drown out a fire with an explosion, right? Like, oh no, look over here. Look at me and an idiot. I'm stirring up stuff with Georgia again, or like he would just go off because he knew he just had him in his back pocket. He didn't have to think. He'd just shoot out these barbs and draw attention away from how crappy his team was. And then when he wasn't, spitting barbs, that's when he was like, I'm feeling pretty good about my team. And I guarantee you that there's a little bit of that in Eli Drinkwitz too, because he talked a lot in 21 and 22, and he was pretty quiet last year and he was pretty quiet this year. So I think he's feeling good about this team. What that means from wins and losses, listener, we'll figure that out in a couple months. But it's nice to kind of read the tea leaves and think that your head coach is feeling pretty good about this season. So that is nice. So we got through SEC Media Days. Camp starts next Monday. We are zooming through this thing, but today, a little bit of interesting information dropped. The NCAA is talking about expanding scholarship limits for the athletics that any university is providing. Big ones that you want to look at. Obviously, we are the football show. We'll dive into a little bit of the other realms here, but as far as the scholarship expansion goes, we're talking football plus 20 scholarships. That takes you from 85 to 105. Basketball gets plus 2. That means they go up to 15 scholarships for the team. Baseball is the big winner. I love this number. Adding 22.3 scholarships to the baseball team, which takes them to 34 scholarships. The softball team likewise getting an extra 13, which would take them to 25 total, and then volleyball getting an extra 6, which means you can carry 18 scholarship volleyball players. Obviously, there's a lot of fallout from this. Let's start football first and work our way out. What are your thoughts regarding football as far as the scholarship expansion goes?
I mean, I think first and foremost, this is great for the student athletes, right? It's going to give more opportunities to athletes that otherwise would not get a free education, right? Now, are all 105 of these on all 130 FBS teams going to play significantly? No, but they don't already anyway. But those 15 walk-ons on every program in the country are now going to get to still play. They've always gone to all the practices. They've always gone to all the games. Now they get to actually kind of get some recompense for that, for their hard work, even if it's just just a free education, which these days is $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. Those folks probably aren't getting a ton of NIL money, but they are going to now be able to get a free education. That's great. More athletes, more free education. I'm all for that. What that means on a more macro scale for college football, it's really hard to say right now because every team can do this. And with the money that now exists in college football, I would be very surprised if not all FBS programs didn't offer 105 scholarships because the money's there. We know that it's there. It's different than back in the 70s when just a very small handful of programs like a Nebraska was really the reason they made the rule in the first place, would offer 140 scholarships to anyone and everyone and basically hold 3 rosters worth of really good players on their team because they could afford it. This was way before every program.
Alabama did this too in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, Alabama would do it. Probably Ohio State, Georgia, just maybe 5 to 10 would have crazy, huge rosters. Basically, they would suck up all the talent. Those players would never get to play, but they're on the roster, they're on the team. And even though they would definitely not only play but start at many other, D1 programs, the landscape of college football is entirely different than it was back then. The money's off the scale. Programs can afford to do this. Even your Conference USA programs who make so much less than an SEC, it's not even close, they can still pay 105 scholarships worth. And maybe does that mean that they pay their coach $100,000 less a year? Okay, great. They shouldn't be making that much anyway. So I think it's a good thing. How does this trickle down to lower levels of college football? That's where I think we're going to see some impact. A player that chose to go to an FCS school because they could get a free ride, and as opposed to maybe they had a walk-on offer even at an SEC level school, but wanted to get a full scholarship because they couldn't afford it or just didn't want to pay it. They instead went to an FCS school. We might see a lot more of those players stay at the top level now than we did before. The other thing that's different is the transfer portal, which was not a thing in the 70s, was not a thing in the 80s, but up until they instituted the 85 scholarship limit. So now it's okay if Alabama wants to pull in 105 players, which they certainly will, and have those on scholarship, because then those players are empowered to leave whenever they want if they don't feel like they're ever going to see the field, which 40 of them won't ever see the field out of 105. They have the opportunity to stay there for a year or two, and then make the decision for themselves. Oh, I want to stick this out. Alabama's my place, or I want to, try my luck somewhere else. That did not exist back in the 70s. So if a player committed to Nebraska, they were stuck at Nebraska no matter if they were 8th on the depth chart or not.
Yeah, it's tough to tell because number one, I don't know how schools are going to do this. Do you just look at your walk-on roster and say, all of you on scholarship now? Or is this, okay, so we can carry 105 now? Well, now I am going to care a little bit more about that 3-star that I really wanted for depth, that I kind of wrote off because Charlotte had the inroad. Do you fight harder for that? Anybody who is going to tell you this is how it's going to be for X amount of time, we don't know, man. We didn't even know what the COVID, extra year was going to do to schedules for this long. Like we had an idea, but we did not realize it was going to change the game and make old teams the best teams. Like who would have thought that, in college football? So like, it's tough to tell. If you ask me though, and this is just my guess, I think, right now, what you have 85 scholarship players, you carry 125, 130 guys on a team once you add the walk-ons, probably something like that. I do wonder if like roster numbers actually go down from this, in so much that they cut the walk-ons, the number of walk-ons, or just cut walk-ons completely. Because, obviously travel rosters are a lot shorter, a lot smaller than the full team. But like, even when you're at home, you are putting those guys in a hotel. You are renting buses. You are buying equipment, like the full jersey, the cleats, the helmet, the gloves. Then, the sweatsuits, the warm-ups, the food for, practices, like adding 20 scholarships and then like trying to keep that same walk-on roster is just extra costs on top of that. And I promise you, not everybody who's on scholarship is on scholarship. I think NIL is covering a lot of this stuff. So my thought is that rosters are actually going to get somewhat smaller, not 105, end of story. I just think they're going to carry fewer walk-ons now because they're going to, number one, care about their depth a little bit more. And number two, because you expand that roster, you don't have the room for an extra 25, 30 guys, 40 guys who are, great for practice, which is what their real value is. But, now you have that from a scholarship player. So that's my initial thought. Number two, this is obviously a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I wonder, because not all scholarships cost the same. You talked about $50,000, $70,000, some tuition is $100,000. Some is, 30. So it's all relative based off of the school. But if you're covering it from NIL, like, can the small schools keep up? Do sports get cuts? I don't know what the answer is. I will say, though, this is an NCAA rule. So it goes across the board, right? FBS, FCS, Division I, Division II, Division III. I think while you might see walk-ons get smaller at the FBS level, you could see probably those guys playing in the FCS, like you said, but taking those roles and sticking with FCS longer, which might make the FCS product better, or maybe make the D2 product better. Because again, Cody Schrader was freaking good, and he took a gamble to come on the SEC team, and it worked. How many of those gambles don't work? And maybe it would have been better if they stayed. Now, it sucks that you lose the Cody Schrader story, but maybe you got him in the first place because you have expanded scholarships. I don't know. Really, the big winner here is baseball. And Hurst, I know you're a baseball guy. I know a couple of Rockin' folks who are baseball guys. It's always been ridiculous, how they've done the scholarships with baseball. Mizzou has always stunk at baseball since the SEC move. I don't know if this makes them better, but Hurst, from a roster management standpoint, from just the sport in general, I gotta feel like this would make college baseball take off in popularity. Is there any positive impact from Mizzou baseball with this roster expansion?
For Mizzou baseball, not necessarily. I'm a little dubious based on how they have supported the program financially, really for all time, but especially relative to the SEC peers since we moved to the SEC. I find it a little dubious that they're going to fully meet the limit and maximize how many scholarships they offer at 34. Because remember, these are maximum scholarships to offer. You don't have to offer 34 in baseball.
Yeah.
You don't have to offer 105 in football. You could offer 60 or none if you didn't want to. Like the Ivy League doesn't offer athletic scholarships at all. To be honest, would be quite surprised if Mizzou baseball even offered 34 full scholarships. Certainly not in the next year or two, just based on the amount of money that the athletic department has seen fit to give them. If they do, that's great. I applaud it. That's amazing. It will absolutely help the sport of college baseball, and honestly, the sport of baseball in general, for a lot of reasons. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but one of the big issues, and this is the problem with the sport of baseball in general, is the number of American-born Black athletes that play baseball has shrunk to a minuscule number in the last several decades. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But a big one is it has become outrageously expensive to prep a baseball athlete to the point where they can get to the major leagues. And that starts in Little League, where these travel teams travel across the country and pay exorbitant fees to play in tournaments, all this stuff. So it starts there. But another big part of it is with such a limited roster base or scholarship base for college baseball, the opportunities to go to college, and if it's an athlete that's coming that doesn't have the means to pay for even half of a ride to college, because most of these college or baseball scholarships have been a quarter of a scholarship, like 0.25 or 0.5. You rarely see a full scholarship in baseball, which now will be all full scholarships, which is great because it'll allow these athletes who otherwise would either have to get drafted in the 19th round and sign a minuscule contract to go play pro because they can't afford to go to college, or not continue and get better kind of in their baseball career much earlier on. So it really opens a path for those athletes that otherwise may not have had that. So I think that's great. Not because mainly, for equity reasons, but also just I'm a baseball fan. For baseball reasons, that's great. Not just college, but MLB as well. Back to Mizzou, it's going to be a rich gets richer sort of thing for the SEC. 99% of the other SEC programs, probably all of them, will meet the scholarship number. As I said, I'm not sure if Mizzou will. If they do, at best, we're just going to stay as far away from the other teams as we are. We're just all going to take a step forward, but Mizzou's going to still be a step behind, or multiple steps for that matter.
Well, the board, that they are football first, second, third, and fourth, basketball. You get the rest. Everybody else, good luck. That is the model that they're operating off of. So yeah, there's a good chance that they go, sorry, baseball, it's only 14. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I will point out, kind of if you think of kind of the splash damage or like the ripple effect of this sort of thing, that means that the school is on the hook for a lot more scholarships than they were last year. So what is a school to do? Now, I'm not saying that, the D1 athletes who are not on scholarship are such a huge revenue stream that, now the school is crippled and poor and can't do anything. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is that they're going to have to, make sure that the investment in athletics pays off in some way. And you have started to see a little bit of that infrastructure development occur in other schools. And what I'm specifically talking about is Tennessee. They released today something called the Neyland Entertainment District. It was a proposal that was put in front of Knoxville for the city, where the school will be responsible for expanding entertainment district venues, hotels, bars, restaurants around Neyland Stadium where they play football. All of this to generate more revenue on college football game days Okay. But also just have that revenue for the school itself. So what they're looking at is a 175,000 square foot entertainment district that includes one hotel, a rooftop restaurant, a pool, shops, other amenities. They released the photos today. If you go on to any social media and just type in Neyland Entertainment District, you can see kind of the rough sketches of it. It's right along the river, which is cool as hell. If you have a river, use the damn river. St. Louis, I'm talking to you. This is to attract people to that place and spend more money on game day already, but then attract people to that place when it's not game day so that you can generate revenue for the university. Now, I'm not saying that Mizzou has to do this. Obviously, with the student housing kind of popping up in the downtown district area, they've already started to encroach on that sort of thing. But I think you could reasonably see, if not getting local businesses to buy into this sort of thing, and again, NIL funded scholarships, have the university expand, put their name on stuff to create an environment around the stadium, a landing spot, a destination for people just to go in general, so that you're spending money in the city, spending money with university blessed places. So that money goes into the kitty and goes and pays for the scholarships for these athletes to play. I'm not saying that's absolutely going to happen, but you're seeing it at Neyland, and the SEC kind of leads the way for this sort of thing. I'm curious how many other schools start doing this sort of thing.
Yeah, I love the idea as an idea. I think Desiree Reed-Francois was something she was starting to try to work on developing before she ended up leaving. But that was if not rumor, or even a little progressed beyond rumor, was that was a big part of what she was going to propose to the board of curators in terms of the north end zone expansion and renovation, was adding in kind of a little, maybe not as big as what Tennessee is doing, but a few restaurants, bars. I don't know if a hotel was involved or not. That obviously, at least in the short term, didn't, fell through. So I think there have been some feasibility studies on that sort of thing that have already taken place for Mizzou. That said, I think there's some challenges for Mizzou specifically that raises. Where Faurot is physically located in town, there's not a whole lot of accessible area to get to. Meaning, could you physically build the thing? Yeah, absolutely. You could build out restaurants, even a hotel. I just am not sure how much business those places would get outside of the 6 to 7 game days a year. Which makes it very difficult for businesses to stay open, especially because the campus is already right up against downtown. Students, Friday night, Saturday night, they're going downtown. That's kind of already been, in the culture. That's where they go to spend their entertainment evenings. So you'd have to not only retrain them to go the opposite direction, but also, walk farther, and it's not as big. It's whatever they build would not be as big as the downtown Columbia area. We do have Hinkson Creek. Does that count as a body of water that you could build up?
You can put a boat on it. It counts, baby. That's all I want.
But yeah, the idea is interesting. In practical application, I'm not sure exactly how it would play out. That said, I would love another hotel built close to the stadium and throw another bar and grill next to it. Yep. Columbia could support that. We need way more hotel rooms as it is. So I would totally be supportive of that move, if nothing else.
What's the dorm right across from Faurot?
Well, I mean, they've torn down in the last decade Laws and Jones and Lathrop.
That's right.
And they've rebuilt 2 in their place. They've tore down 3 it's probably been 10 years ago by now, and rebuilt 2. And there's still a big open grass field spot for a third to be built eventually. And don't ask me what the 2 new ones are called. They're not Laws and Jones or Lathrop. But I think it's like Gateway Dorm or something, something cheesy. But they will eventually build another one in the big open grass field that's there. They just that all happened around the 2015 drop in enrollment, and they decided they didn't need to build a dorm that would have gone unfilled anyway. So
hotel, baby, put it right there.
The university does own a very large
tract
of land right there. Yep. They could build a hotel right there. It would be wonderful.
Do it.
I'm all about it.
Do something. Get creative. I am not the creative type. I am the enjoy other people's creativity type. So if anyone's got ideas, send them their way, because I think a lot of people are trying to embrace this as like, it's a business. If it's not been apparent, the past 40 years, it certainly is now. Let's just shamelessly make money for the university in any way that we can. And like I said, the SEC is going to lead the way. So Mizzou decision makers, here's your chance. Go find something fun to do and build out your entertainment empire around Eli Drinkwitz's boys.
Turn Hearn Center into an indoor Topgolf.
Boy, man, laser tag. Laser tag.
That would be awesome. It'd
5 stories.
World's biggest laser tag arena. There you go.
Just forget football. Laser tag. I want to talk about Eli Drinkwitz real quick. This is not based off of anything other than the fact that I listened to the Shutdown Fullcast, which is the internet's only college football podcast. And last week they had a rare, serious episode where they decided to rank the safety of coaches by deciding which coaches can survive 4-win seasons. The reason they picked 4 wins is because, obviously 6 wins in your bowling, there's a lot of teams that, cannot turn their nose up at that. 5 wins, obviously contextually, you could say maybe those 5 wins were the exact 5 wins that you needed. You knocked off a playoff entrant, you ruined a rival's, season, and you had a couple fluky 1-loss, whatever. You can almost always explain away 5 wins, whether you want to or not. You can. 4 wins, though, you really cannot explain that away. That is bad no matter what. And so what the Shutdown Fullcast idiots did was that they went through a list of the safest coaches based off of who could survive a 4-win season. And Eli Drinkwitz was like number 5. And obviously these guys, they observed the whole hog, right? So they churn through everything. So they don't have the nuance and the context that we would have here in our little corner. But what they said was that Eli Drinkwitz, if he had a 4-win season this year in 2024, there's no way he would be fired based off of 11 wins last year and based off of the recruiting wins that he's been having the past couple of weeks. So let's talk about this. I'm not calling from the man's head. I'm just having an open discussion of, think about it. Nathan Hurst, if we got to December of 2024 and we look back and this Missouri team with Eli Drinkwitz had 4 wins, do you think he would be fired or do you think we would keep him?
We would definitely keep him 100%. I don't think there's any way he would be fired minus a scandal at 4 wins. I don't think he would be fired minus a scandal at 3 wins this season. Now, would that put him firmly on the hot seat in 2025? Absolutely. But yeah, 3 to 4 wins, definitely not. Even 2 wins. I mean, I'm having a hard press time, short of like losing to UMass and losing to Buffalo, and going 1 and even then, last year was such a great year. Even then, it would be hard to see Veach, who's brand new on the job, wanting to axe him. Also, including the context of the fact that the board of curators kind of handpicked this guy, and he's their guy, and they're the ones that make the ultimate call anyway. Unless he were to do or say something that really got their goat, I'm gonna have a hard press to see a reason why he wouldn't be back next year, regardless of the record this season.
So let me just walk you through a potential 4-win season. Okay. You beat Murray State, you beat Buffalo, you beat Boston College, and then you beat Vanderbilt. And then you don't win another game from September 28th all the way through the end of the year. That means you lose to UMass at UMass. That means you lose to Texas A&M in Mike Elko's first year. You lose to Auburn. You lose to Alabama. Okay, nothing wrong with that. You lose to Oklahoma. And at that point, maybe you start losing recruits. Then you lose at South Carolina, a South Carolina team that is going to be relying on FCS and G5 call-ups to supplement a brand new quarterback who's in his second year, first full year starting. You lose to Mississippi State, who could not win a game last year, who beat Arkansas 7-3, who has a brand new coach with a brand new offensive system and the 115th returning production. And then you lose to Arkansas, who will probably have fired their coach at that point. I understand that this is their guy, and I'm actually with you. I think he would survive. But think about that. Seriously, think about losing to UMass and Arkansas and Mississippi State yet again and see the recruits fleeing away. You don't think there's any chance in hell the board goes, you're done.
You're giving me hives. I don't want to think about it. It's stressing me out too much. No, I don't. Short of a scandal, God forbid, that something off the field happening, whether it is something that he did himself or that the team gets embroiled in, that he should have, theoretically been tamped down on as the leader of the program. I don't see it. It would be awful. It would be ugly. It would be terrible to get through a season with such high hopes to be on the complete opposite end. Plus, if we're going to look at it realistically, the only way this team goes 4-8 is if the injuries are outrageous. Like not only Brady Cook getting hurt, but Drew Pine also getting hurt. And then we got true freshman Aiden Glover playing quarterback. Also, we've got, the full starting offensive line goes down and, half of the defense is in and out. And, our starting cornerbacks get the bins and can't play for 6 weeks in a row because they went scuba diving right before. I don't know. That's the only way I could see this team going 4-8 in the first place. So it's a lot, or 3-8, 3-9, whatever. So it's a lot easier to say, throw this season in the dumpster, light it on fire. This was just the worst luck. We had some pretty good fortune last year. This was just the other side of the coin. But so that it would be very easy to use that narrative to kind of wipe it away the season. Now, does that mean he's not very much sweating it out going into 2025? He absolutely is. But the transfer portal allows you to make up for if you drop a few recruits. That's a couple holes. We can bring in a couple more transfer portal guys. They're not going to care that much about what you did last year because they're only here for a year or two. They only care about this year. And if you could prove to them that they're A, going to get to play, and B, have a chance to do good, and Drinkwitz has proven he's really good at selling that. I just don't see it.
I don't either. I don't want a 4-win season. I'm
gonna have a hard time sleeping tonight just because you brought up the idea.
I mean, with this schedule and this roster, this is the expanded playoff. Like, this is capitalization time. You gotta take advantage of those opportunities. So, but yeah, it was interesting. I'm glad that from a national standpoint, people believe that now. I feel like Mizzou is usually kind of the punchline to most college football jokes, which is fine by me. Again, give me the disrespect. I don't care. It only makes me stronger. But it was interesting to hear kind of a measured take from someone who doesn't know the team, recognizing the job that Eli Drinkwitz has done and how good he continues to be, and that they feel confident in thinking that he could survive a potential 4-win season, even though that's not going to happen. Knocking on the wood. Okay. And to wrap it up, because again, I'm not playing college football 25, and that's all I can think about the past week. We're going to talk about college football 25. How's it going? How do you feel about the game? You've got a full week under your belt. How do you feel about it?
The game is very fun. It is as fun as I hoped it would be. It's also very hard, and it's way harder than I thought it would be, to be honest. But that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just different from what I have been used to. And the previous iterations of this game, I would never call difficult. Now, certainly you could get to the Heisman levels, and there were times where it would be harder. It would be hard. You could challenge yourself. But I never just threw up my hands like there's no way that I can do anything with this. And I've had a few of those chances in the first week, which is good. I mean, I think there's the opportunity to get better, and hopefully you play the more you play, the better you get. But I will say that I have had a lot of fun playing it, and that's really the only thing that matters. Is it is entertaining me. Is my dynasty undefeated and headed towards a national championship in year one? No. We lost to who did I lose to? I did beat Buffalo. Had to switch down a level to the varsity level and beat Vanderbilt. Boston College. Definitely lost to Boston College. That was disappointing. But I was able to rally back and beat Vanderbilt. So it's good. I've actually been playing a lot of Road to Glory the last few days. So I've just taken a back, put my dynasty on the back seat in the back seat for a minute. Currently, I'm leading Cletus McPeter to become the first Mizzou Heisman Trophy winning running back. He's a red-headed, dreadlocked white guy running back. I figured if Corey can do it, he can too.
That's great. It is very hard. And not in a random video game BS sort of way. You know, the magical transporting ninja linebacker who jumps 20 feet in the air and picks you off, like that's gone, which is good. And its replacement is, oh, I didn't see that guy, or, you know, he was sitting right in the passing lane and I thought I could get it over and I couldn't. I could in 14, I can't do it in 25, like that sort of thing. And just kind of the rude awakening of that. Which is fine. I think I've had my one loss was Akron. Now I'm doing a little bit different than you. I've not started Dynasty yet. I'm taking Mizzou, and so I can see all the stadiums and see all the traditions and everything that they put in there. I am playing every single team starting at the bottom of the SP Plus rankings and working my way up. So I just beat UConn last night, I think is what it was. I got UTEP on deck tonight. I did lose to Akron, which is projected to be the second worst team in college football. But you know, I learned the Akron game taught me to never play man defense. That's what I learned. I play zone. And what's really fun is that when you pull up your plays in the bottom right corner of each play, it shows you how many times you've run it and what the average yards per play is. So my cover 2 or my Tampa 2, I'm at like 200 times I've called that play with like 3.6 yards per average. So I'm just sticking with that. My guys can play zone like champs. And it makes me sad because I like to play like my team plays. I want to send Dalen Carnell on a blitz. I want to see Marvin Burks float up to the line and knock some dude senseless. I want to send Tristan Newsome out there, but when I do that, I lose. So instead, boring old Tampa 2. But yeah, it's fun. I have also started playing Road to Glory. I will say it seemed like a marketing ploy because everybody who did a review is like, you should try Ultimate Team. You know, the thing where you have to pay money to win. So I gave it a shot, and boy, there is some really good. That's basically your tutorial on how to play the game. So if you haven't gotten it yet or you haven't tried it yet, it is really nice to do that. I'm not really big into the trading card thing, but I like doing it just to like get that experience, like learn how to do different things. But I am also on a Road to Glory right now. I am also doing a running back. What I do every year is I create a player. His name is Ass Jackson. He is a 6'3", 247-pound running back out of Detroit, Michigan. And he's a power running back, man. He takes, you know, it's like leopards trying to take down a hippo every time he runs the ball. And he does not. I have not found a team that can use Mr. Jackson very well. Everybody wants him to go out for a pass, which I'm okay with. Just give him the ball, baby. Man, Ass Jackson falls forward. You just give that to him and go. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's great.
Jaworski Lane Part D.
Oh yeah, Jaworski Lane.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I will get better. I'm looking forward to. I've yet to play anybody online. I have no intention of playing strangers online. I'm looking forward to playing people I know, or at least have connection with in some way online at some point. But I have to play about 100 more games before I feel confident that I'm not going to embarrass myself. Really, what I got to do is I got to nail down my like solid 7 or 8 offensive plays that I know that are my old reliables that I know that will work. I haven't really found those yet. I found 2 or 3 that are okay, but I like to have a nice back pocket or 2 full of stuff that I know is going to work regardless of what the defense is going to do.
Just like Novocaine, baby. It takes some time, but it works every time. I will say this. You do have to call a game like an offensive coordinator. If you just go out and throw it every single time, they figure it out. If you just run it every time, they figure it out. So I'm learning how to incorporate play action and like not call the same stuff over and over again. I look at that counter. I'm like, have I run this before? No. Okay. Screw you, computer. It's hard, but I like it. I like the challenge. It's good.
The computer is much smarter than and adaptable than it was, which is not a surprise. Here we are 10 years later.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and it's gotten frustrating. It might be a little overtuned. They might have to pull it back a little bit. Is the cascading effect of doing one bad thing. So if your quarterback throws one bad interception, and that's usually your user error, the chances that you're going to throw 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more interceptions that game just skyrocket. And the more you throw, the worse it gets. And it just is a cascading effect. And so if you throw a couple and it's only the second quarter, you're kind of screwed no matter what the score is, because you're not going to be able to throw the ball anymore the rest of the game without throwing lots and lots of interceptions. So that can get a little frustrating. But I mean, in some sense, it's a little realistic. If you have a player that's just absolutely losing it on the road, can't do it. Maybe, and I haven't really played around with subbing that quarterback out and trying a different quarterback and seeing if that makes a difference or not. The other thing is kicking. If you miss a field goal, you're not going to make another kick the rest of the game as well. So I'm just at this point just trying to learn to accept it and embrace it. But it can be frustrating.
Yeah. Well, it is fun. And like I tell my kids, if it's no longer fun, you should no longer be doing it. And I've run into that situation a couple times and just stepped away. But again, I'll probably be playing this thing for 10 years. So we got a while to get good. So yeah, there's your video game corner for your Missouri football podcast. But it is irrelevant. And once they figure out the rosters, get those updated and figure out the playoff seedings correctly, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun and a nice outlet if we happen to have a bad Saturday coming down the pipeline. So I think that's going to be our show for today. We are, like I said, we are now every week. So I can't guarantee there's going to be news every week, but I can guarantee you we're going to be on here talking to you about it. Obviously, for all you Rock M Plus subscribers, again, thank you. We appreciate you having you on here live. You'll get first access to it, as well as all the news and gossip and advanced stuff that's going to go on in Rock M Plus. Obviously, Rock M Nation is still there for all the free stuff, all the services that we always provide. It's still there. That's not changing. We just got extra stuff behind the paywall that you can come explore with. And of course, you have this, which drops early for all you subscribers here. But yeah, that's going to be we're looking at the season. Practice starts next week. We're rolling towards game 1 against Murray State. Nathan Hurst, final thoughts as we roll into the season with fall camp starting and the season a mere month away.
We're a month away. One other note, this applies to everyone, not just Rock M Plus subscribers, but Rock M Plus, a lot of your favorite Rock M writers have worked really hard on a season preview magazine, a digital magazine that is coming out. It may even be out for purchase by the time you listen to this. Any moment, it will be public. I've written a few things on there, some team previews. We've previewed every team, every matchup, every position group. It's like 90-something pages of nothing but the best, most in-depth Mizzou football 2024 information. So stay tuned to Rock M Plus. Twitter, I'll tweet out the link as soon as it goes live as well. It's definitely worth your time. It's I think $15 for non-Rock M Plus subscribers, and then $10 or even $5 depending on your Rock M Plus kind of subscription that you have there. You can get it discounted as well, but it's definitely worth the money. We put a lot of time and effort into that thing, and it is really good. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, you guys did a great job. And that's the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm Matt H. Edwards. He's at Burst of Hurst. Of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcasting outlet at Rock M Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, M-I-Z.
Z-O-U.